Okay, picture this for a second. A 3-year-old child, maybe your nephew, maybe a friend's kid, who just flat out refuses to eat. Unless, that is, there's a phone playing cartoons right there in front of their face. Or maybe a 5-year-old who's really struggling, like just to string a few words together.
Yeah, you hear about that a lot.
And what about this image? Kids just completely zoned out in front of screens, so much so that they don't even notice their parent, maybe their mom, having a coughing fit on the floor right next to them.
Oh.
It's chilling.
It really is.
So today, we're diving deep into something that's, well, it's quietly but very powerfully reshaping how millions of kids are growing up all over the world. We're talking about mobile phones, tablets, screens.
Yeah.
The conversation that, honestly, not enough people are having, but the impacts, they seem pretty terrifying.
It's truly fascinating, isn't it? How something that often starts as, just a simple convenience, something seemingly harmless.
Right, just to keep them quiet for 5 minutes.
Exactly. How that can snowball into these really dangerous long-term consequences. So yeah, today we're taking a really close look at the truth behind screen addiction in children, and we're backing it up with solid scientific research.
Okay.
Our mission here is to understand not just what's happening, because I think many people see it, but really why it matters so much, why it matters to you, to your family, and honestly to the whole future generation. We've got some sources that I think will really open your eyes to what's actually going on behind those bright, glowing screens. It's much more than just cartoons.
Definitely. So let's maybe paint 2 different pictures for everyone listening. Try to imagine an Indian middle-class family, say, back in the 1990s, evening time.
Okay.
You've got the father maybe reading a newspaper, the mother's chatting about her day, the daughter is, struggling with her math homework and asking for help.
Real interaction.
Right. And maybe the little 3-year-old son is just happily playing with his toy cars on the floor. Everyone's there, physically, mentally present, talking, maybe laughing, actually building connections.
Yeah, a shared space.
Now let's fast forward. Same kind of family, Indian middle class, but it's 2025. Same evening scene. What do you see?
It's different, isn't it?
Very different. Dad's scrolling news on his phone, mom's watching, I don't know, some streaming show on her tablet. The 10-year-old daughter, lost in Instagram. And the 3-year-old boy, he's parked on the floor, eyes glued to YouTube shorts on his tablet.
His own device.
Physically, yeah, they're in the same room. But mentally, they're miles apart, each lost in their own little digital world. There's no noise, no chatter, no real connection happening, just the blue light hitting their faces.
It looks quiet, deceptively peaceful almost.
Exactly. But as we're about to unpack, that quietness, it hides a pretty serious growing crisis.
And that really raises a key question. What are the hard facts here? What does the data tell us about this shift? Well, there was a survey, pretty recent, October 2024. It involved over 70,000 parents in urban India.
Wow, that's a big sample.
Huge. And it found that more than 66%, 2/3, reported their children were addicted to social media, streaming platforms, online games.
2/3, that's staggering.
It is. And maybe even more concerning, 58% of those parents directly linked this addiction to seeing more aggression and impatience in their kids.
Okay, so aggression, impatience. And how does this square with what health experts recommend? I mean, what should kids be getting?
Well, the recommendations are pretty clear and quite different. The World Health Organization, the WHO, they suggest absolutely 0 screen time for children under 2.
0.
None. And for toddlers, so ages 2 to 4, the maximum should be 1 hour per day. Max.
1 hour max. Okay. And what's the reality, say, in India based on that AIDS report analysis you mentioned?
Yeah, that analysis paints a very different picture. If we look at the bigger picture in India, children under 5 are averaging 2.2 hours of screen time daily.
Okay, double the max for the older toddlers.
And get this, kids under 2, they're averaging 1.2 hours a day.
When it should be 0.
When it should be absolutely 0. So it's not just a small deviation, it's a massive departure from the guidelines. And that really sets the stage for all sorts of problems down the line.
Let's maybe put a face to these numbers. There's a story about a boy named Arav, 9 years old, from Gugan. His parents both had pretty demanding jobs.
Right.
So, for convenience, they started giving him a smartphone when he was just 1 year old, kept him occupied.
The digital pacifier, as they say.
Exactly. And pretty soon, he got to the point where he would only eat if the phone was playing cartoons. That's a huge red flag, right?
A classic sign.
But it was ignored. By the time he was 4, he had his own phone. and he preferred it to playing outside.
Right.
Part of that, the story mentions, was his parents worrying about him mixing with other kids they didn't really approve of.
Ah, okay. So a mix of convenience and maybe some social anxiety there from the parents.
Seems like it. And what happened next is, well, it's become disturbingly common. First, Arav developed weak eyes, needed glasses. Then came the headaches, constant headaches. A doctor pinpointed it too much screen time.
Directly linked.
Directly linked. And when his parents finally realized how bad it was and tried to take the phone away, chaos, violent tantrums, he'd even hit his head against the wall. The source uses the phrase, just like a drug addict.
Wow, that intense. It really shows the level of dependency.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it?
It truly is. And in Arev's case, unfortunately, it's far from unique. Myopia, short-sightedness, it's skyrocketing. It's genuinely becoming an epidemic.
An epidemic.
Yes. Think about it. Kids today spend less time outdoors than, and this is a shocking comparison, less time than prisoners get outside.
That can't be right. Less than prison.
That's what some studies suggest, yeah. And this dramatically reduced exposure to natural light is a huge factor in myopia risk. Here's the key insight. Natural sunlight actually helps the eye regulate its growth. Without enough of it, the eyeball can elongate slightly, and boom, you get myopia.
So it's not just straining their eyes looking at the screen, it's the lack of outdoor light too.
Yeah. It's a major contributing factor, yes. And the predictions are alarming. The Association of Community Ophthalmologists of India estimates that if things keep going this way, by 2050, half of all Indian children will have myopia.
Half.
Yeah.
That's a massive public health issue brewing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so vision is clearly impacted. What else? What other, physical systems are taking a hit from all this screen time? What about something as basic as sleep?
Oh, sleep is a huge one, a really major impact area. There was a big review, looked at 67 different studies covering kids aged 5 to 17.
Okay.
And the finding was incredibly consistent. More screen time directly correlated with less total sleep.
Less sleep overall.
Yep. To get specific, a Finnish study focusing on 3 to 6-year-olds found that for every extra hour of screen time, their nightly sleep duration dropped by about 10 minutes.
10 minutes per hour doesn't sound huge initially,
Yeah.
but it adds up fast.
It really does. And in China, another study found that just 1 extra hour of screen time increased the risk of having a clinical sleep disorder by 12%. 12%.
Wow. And why? Is it just keeping them awake? Or is something else going on?
It's more complex than just keeping them awake. The blue light emitted by these screens actively suppresses melatonin production.
Right. The sleep hormone.
Exactly. The
Right.
hormone your body needs to feel sleepy and regulate sleep cycles. But here's the really critical part. Children's brains are twice as sensitive to this melatonin suppression as adult brains are.
Twice as sensitive.
Twice. So even what seems like a small amount of screen time in the evening can seriously mess up their developing sleep cycles. And that affects everything: growth, hormone release, mood, their ability to learn. It goes way beyond just feeling tired the next day.
You even mentioned seeing videos of kids, mimicking scrolling in their sleep.
Yeah, it's incredibly disturbing. Little kids making scrolling motions with their fingers while they're asleep. If that's not a sign of addiction being hardwired, I don't know what is.
That's deeply unsettling.
Yeah.
Okay, so less outdoor time, messed up sleep. I'm guessing obesity is linked in here too.
It's almost unavoidable, isn't it? The link is pretty obvious. Drastically reduced physical activity. We mentioned American kids spending less time outdoors than prisoners.
Yeah, that's still shocking.
And get this, a UK survey found that 23%, almost a quarter of children, actually believe playing video games counts as exercise.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Plus, there's the eating aspect. Eating while distracted by screens, like that little 18-month-old Shub who only ate with cartoons on.
Right, Raf did that too.
Very common. It leads to mindless eating. Kids consume more calories because they aren't paying attention to their body's fullness signals. They just keep eating.
So it increases the risk of overeating and weight gain.
Significantly. And that survey in Indian cities, over 80% of mothers admitted using the TV to get their kids to eat, thinking it keeps them peaceful.
But it has downsides.
Major downsides. Food often gets held in the mouth longer, which increases the risk of cavities. And because they're not really focusing on chewing properly, it can actually lead to digestion problems too.
Okay, this next point you raised in the outline feels huge. The impact on the actual brain. You're saying screen time isn't just a distraction, it physically alters a child's brain structure.
Yes, that's what the research indicates. It's not just about behavior, it's about brain development. Specifically, it impacts the growth of areas responsible for executive functions.
Executive functions.
Yeah.
Like What, exactly?
Think of things like emotional control, the ability to manage frustration, planning, focusing attention, social interaction skills, even internal motivation, that drive to do things without an external reward.
Wow, those are fundamental life skills.
Absolutely crucial. And a study published in JAMA Pediatrics found a direct link. The more screen time kids had under the age of 1.
Under 1 year old.
Yes, under 1. The worse their executive functioning skills were measured to be 9 years later at age 9.
A direct correlation over almost a decade.
Yes. It even seems to affect the parietal lobe. That's the part of the brain that processes sensory information: touch, heat, cold, pain, how we interact with the physical world.
So wait, are you saying it could numb their sense of the physical world around them, like that video you mentioned?
It points in that direction. Remember the mother faking the coughing fit and collapsing?
Yeah.
And only one of the 3 kids watching TV even looked up. The other 2 were just oblivious, staring at the screen. Like they were hypnotized. Their ability to process what was happening right next to them was just shut off.
That is genuinely disturbing.
Yeah.
What about other developmental milestones, like speech? That seems critical in early childhood.
Another major area of concern: how do screens hinder language development? Well, we talked about Priya's daughter in Udhampur. 5 years old, could only manage a few words, even though she'd started saying mama and papa at age 2.
And that was linked to heavy screen use.
Directly linked, yes.
Yeah.
And then there was the 3-year-old boy watching Tom and Jerry almost constantly.
Characters who don't speak.
Exactly. Mute characters. So what did he do? He started mimicking their nonverbal communication, thinking that's how you interact. He wasn't learning language.
Because he wasn't getting the right input.
Precisely. Kids learn language socially. They need that back and forth, that two-way street. They need to watch lip movements, see gestures, get feedback. Screens are flat, 2D. It's hard to really see lip movements properly.
Even if it's real people on screen.
Even then, it's mostly one-way traffic. There's no real interaction, no encouragement, no gentle correction like a parent gives. And cartoons. The lip syncing is often totally unrealistic anyway.
So the learning just doesn't happen effectively.
It seems not. That survey of over 400 parents with kids aged 2.5 to 4, it clearly showed weaker grammar and vocabulary linked to higher screen use. We even heard about a 12-year-old still having speech delays traced back to heavy screen time when they were very young.
12 years old, wow. And it's not just speech, right? You mentioned motor skills too.
No, it's not just speech. Their physical capabilities are also impacted. If kids are sedentary in front of screens, their basic motor skills, movement, coordination, using their hands, dexterity, they remain underdeveloped. They're just not practicing them.
Makes sense. Less running, jumping, building.
Exactly. That big study, the one with over 7,000 kids, it showed that just 1 to 4 hours of screen time daily for an infant under 1
Just 1 to 4 hours.
led to a 3-fold delay in communication and problem-solving skills by the time they turned 2. 3-fold?
That's huge.
And if the screen time was over 4 hours a day, the delay in communication skills was nearly 5-fold. And they saw a 2-fold delay in fine motor skills, personal skills, social skills.
5 times the delay. It's hard to even comprehend that.
It is. There was that stark case from Ahmedabad during the COVID lockdowns. A 4-year-old who'd had so much screen time they could barely walk or speak properly. A direct consequence of being parked in front of a screen.
And this brings us to ADHD and something called virtual autism. That sounds incredibly serious. Can you maybe clarify what virtual autism means in this context? It sounds alarming.
It does sound alarming, and it's a term causing some debate. But let's look at the symptoms. Take Rohan's story. He started mimicking cartoon voices, fine, but then with more screen time, he developed severe ADHD-like symptoms. Couldn't focus, zero interest in playing with other kids, couldn't sit still in pre-nursery.
So classic ADHD symptoms linked to screen time.
Yes. Now, virtual autism is a term some researchers are using to describe a cluster of symptoms observed in children with very high screen exposure. These symptoms mimic some characteristics of autism spectrum disorder, things like social withdrawal, significant language delays, attention problems.
So it looks like autism, but it's potentially caused by the environment, by the screen time, not something they're born with.
That's the hypothesis, yes. It's crucial to be clear. This isn't a formal clinical diagnosis like ASD. It refers to autism-like symptoms that appear strongly correlated with excessive early screen exposure and, in some reporting cases, seem to lessen when screens are drastically reduced.
Okay, that's an important distinction.
It is. But the impact is devastating regardless of the label. That story shared on Twitter, a 2.5-year-old who developed these severe symptoms after basically watching TV all day because both parents were working.
And the outcome?
3 years later, after treatment, the child still only speaks a few words. It highlights the potential for profound, long-lasting harm.
So, moving to slightly older kids, say 9, 10 years old, are they past the worst of it? Or are there still significant risks for them?
You might think they're more resilient, but the research suggests otherwise. A major meta-analysis, pulling together 117 studies on kids around 10 and a half years old,
Okay.
found that higher screen time significantly increased their risk of developing anxiety and depression later on.
Anxiety and depression, how does that connection work?
Well, think about how adults sometimes cope with stress or difficult emotions. Some might turn to alcohol, some to smoking.
Right, as an escape or a crutch.
Exactly. It seems that for many kids, especially when they face emotional challenges, screens become that crutch. They retreat into games or social media to escape uncomfortable feelings.
So it becomes a coping mechanism, but not a healthy one.
Not at all. It actually prevents them from learning real-world coping skills, how to navigate difficult emotions, how to solve problems. It creates this dangerous downward spiral. Feel bad, go to screen, feel temporarily better, but avoid dealing with the actual issue, which makes the underlying problem worse, leading back to the screen.
That sounds exactly like the cycle of addiction we see elsewhere.
It is fundamentally the same brain mechanism. It's addiction, whether it's video games designed to be engaging or just endless scrolling through stimulating online content, it triggers a dopamine release in the brain.
The reward chemical.
The reward chemical makes them feel good, but the brain adapts. With repeated exposure, it gets used to that level of dopamine, leading to what's called reduced reward sensitivity.
Meaning they need more to get the same feeling?
Precisely. They need more screen time, more intense stimulation, just to feel the same level of pleasure or satisfaction they initially got. Think about that 12-year-old boy, Kian.
The one who got addicted during COVID.
Yeah. Lost all interest in his family, in food, became malnourished, developed serious anxiety and depression, needed psychiatric help. It's a tragic illustration of how deep this addiction can go. We even heard about a 10th grader stealing money just to buy a phone. That's desperation, driven by addiction.
It really highlights the power of that dopamine loop. Now, what about content that looks totally innocent, like, say, Cocomelon? It seems educational, teaches numbers, letters. Is there a hidden catch there, too?
This is where it gets quite insidious, actually. Cocomelon is a fascinating example because, on the surface, yes, it looks harmless, even beneficial, teaching ABCs, daily routines.
Right. Seems positive.
But the danger lies in how it's scientifically engineered. The visual and auditory stimulation is incredibly intense.
Engineered how?
Think about it. Extremely bright, saturated colors, very energetic, repetitive music, and crucially, the scene changes. They happen incredibly fast, like every 2 to 3 seconds.
2 to 3 seconds, that's really quick.
Extremely quick. Plus, there's constant subtle movement on screen. Something is always shifting, shimmering, moving. Nothing is ever static. It's all deliberately designed to grab and hold a young child's attention at an intense level. It basically hooks them.
So are you saying it's intentionally designed to be addictive?
Yeah.
Or is that just a side effect of trying to keep kids watching?
It's definitely designed for maximum engagement, and the result is highly addictive, especially for developing brains. Whether the intent is addiction is debatable, but the effect is clear. Parents widely report what they call the Cocomelon effect online.
What does that look like?
Kids behaving like addicts when the show is on or when it's turned off. Tantrums, zoning out. And because the pacing is so fast, it can seriously decrease their ability to focus on anything slower. Their attention spans shorten.
Making real life seem boring.
Exactly. Normal paced activities, reading a book, playing with blocks, it just can't compete with that level of stimulation. So many parents link watching shows like this to increased anger issues, ADHD-like symptoms, even speech delays. Some describe their kids acting like zombies, just completely passive and unresponsive, all from a seemingly harmless cartoon.
Wow. It really reframes how you look at that kind of content.
Yeah.
So, okay, faced with all these pretty scary impacts, what can parents, what can caregivers listening actually do? What are the practical steps?
Look, the core solution sounds simple, but putting it into practice is the hard part. For children under 2, absolute zero screen time. None.
Zero. Just reiterate that.
Zero. And ideally, honestly, no screens for kids under 5 either. The content creator we mentioned earlier, the one making YouTube videos, he even said he won't let his own child watch his videos until they're 5.
That says a lot.
It does. We really need to internalize that what feels like convenient parenting in the moment, handing over a phone, is often a trade-off. We're trading their physical health, their mental health, potentially their entire future development for our immediate ease. And the true cost only becomes obvious when, frankly, it's often too late to easily fix.
And it's important to remember, you said kids aren't addicted to the plastic and glass.
Exactly. They're addicted to what the screen gives them. Attention, validation, connection, endless entertainment. Things they might be lacking in their real-world interactions. The screen becomes their easy, reliable best friend.
That's a really powerful way to think about it. So if a child is already deep into screen use, maybe showing signs of addiction, what's the best way to approach that? Shouting probably doesn't help.
No, definitely not. Shouting, judging, blaming, that just pushes them further away, maybe even deeper into the screen for comfort. You have to be prepared for a transition period. There will likely be resistance, maybe tantrums. That's withdrawal, essentially.
Like withdrawing from anything addictive?
Yeah. Exactly. Consistency and empathy are your best tools. The key shift in mindset is this. Don't position it as you versus your child. It needs to be you and your child, together, on the same team, fighting the screen addiction. Frame it as a common enemy you're tackling together.
Like a team effort.
Yes, and that team includes educating other caregivers, grandparents, relatives. They often mean well, but can undo progress by offering screens as treats or during visits. Everyone needs to be on the same page.
And surely our own habits play a massive role here. Leading by example must be critical.
Absolutely fundamental. That study in the Pediatric Research Journal couldn't be clearer. Parents who are constantly on their phones in front of their kids have kids with much higher screen times. It's simple, monkey see, monkey do.
Our actions speak louder than rules.
Way louder. You can lecture all day about screen limits, but if you're checking your phone every 2 minutes at the dinner table, the message they receive is clear. Beyond modeling, for kids over 5, where some screen time might be deemed acceptable, it has to be about strict time limits and really tight control over what they're watching. Prioritize genuinely educational, interactive content, not just passive consumption. It's about setting firm boundaries and being present yourself.
Okay, so you reduce or remove the screens. How do you fill that gap? Especially if a child is used to that super high stimulation, how do you make alternatives appealing?
This is where active parental engagement is non-negotiable, especially at first. You can't just hand them a box of Lego and expect magic to happen if they've never really played with it.
Right, they need to be shown how.
You need to get down on the floor with them, build together, read to them with enthusiasm, make it a shared, joyful activity. You're essentially retraining their brain to appreciate slower, more interactive forms of play. You have to show them the fun until they can rediscover it themselves.
And physical activity is key too, right?
Yeah, hugely important. Aim for around 3 hours a day of outdoor play or physical activities like dancing, running around, sports. It helps with physical development, burns energy, and connects them to the real three-dimensional world. Once the screens are less dominant, the possibilities really are endless. Singing, drawing, puzzles, board games like Ludo or Curom, imaginative play.
These baby we grew up with.
Exactly. But again, the parent needs to be the catalyst initially. They need to teach and engage because the real world will feel slow at first compared to the hyperstimulation of screens.
And what about creating physical boundaries like screen-free zones? Does that help?
Yes, very practical and effective. Designate specific areas like all bedrooms and the dining room as completely screen-free zones for everyone.
For the parents too.
Especially for the parents. The rules have to apply equally. Maybe phones only get used in the living room or the study. The critical point is, parents must model this behavior first before expecting kids to follow suit. It really forces us to ask, are we as adults willing to make these consistent, sometimes inconvenient changes for the sake of our children's future?
That's the big question.
It is. And for parents looking for more structured guidance, the source mentioned Riti Diora's 90-minute parenting masterclass. Apparently it's pretty affordable on edadoria.io, and it focuses specifically on child psychology, parent psychology, and practical ways to break these screen addiction patterns by understanding the why behind them.
Okay, good resource.
Yeah.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you listening to this deep dive today? We've covered a lot, from how screens literally change brain chemistry and delay development, to how even seemingly innocent cartoons are engineered to hook kids.
Yeah.
The cost of that digital convenience, it seems incredibly high. It impacts vision, sleep, weight, emotional health, brain structure, pretty much everything.
And if we connect this all back to the bigger picture, it really boils down to realizing that the small choices we make today, whether to hand over a phone, whether to scroll ourselves, are actively shaping the cognitive and emotional abilities of the next generation.
It's a huge responsibility.
It is, but the insights from this research, while concerning, are also empowering. They show us we do have the power to make different choices, to create a present environment for our kids that genuinely fosters healthy development, connection, and resilience rather than just defaulting to the easiest option.
So as you think about everything we've discussed, here's a final thought to mull over. What one small, consistent change could you maybe implement, starting today, that could create a positive ripple effect? A ripple towards a more connected, more present, and ultimately a healthier future for the children in your life.